Is the Codex Alera by Jim Butcher worth reading? The Codex Alera is a completed fantasy series that consists of 6 books: Furies of Calderon, Academ's Fury, Curse's Fury, Captain's Fury, Princep's Fury, and First Lord's Fury. I finished it a couple of days ago, and it's a decent, solid fantasy series that I ended up really enjoying. And now I'm bereft without these characters that have become my friends. However, a word of warning, the first book is the weakest. If you're someone who DNFs a book quickly, this series is worth carrying on with, and it does get good. The first 2/3 of the first book can be a slog and there may not be much of interest to you, but by the end it does get exciting and there's enough curiosity and intrigue and mystery to lure you into the next books of the series, when it only goes up from there. In the first 3 or 4 books, there is a time jump of 2 years between each one. I'm not usually one for time jumps, but in this case it's a strength because we get to see the main character, who starts off as 15 in the first book, actually grow and develop into a really interesting man. The magic system is that there are these things called Furies, who are beings to do with the elements that help everyone use those powers of air, earth, fire, water, etc. And everybody has these Furies apart from one person, and that is the main character, Tavi. And that is a mystery that is gradually developed over the course of the series. But it is this very fact that Tavi grows up without any Furies, without any magic or abilities, that causes him to be someone different, someone who has to come up with alternative methods of doing things because he can't do them the same way as everyone else. And it causes his ingenuity of thought, a different way of thinking, a different way of seeing things to everyone else. This influences him deeply throughout his life and the person he becomes. We see him become more confident and a strong leader, but a leader of a different nature, someone who can see things through the eyes of other people who are also different, which leads him to be able to understand other species, and he becomes this great broker of peace between species. His fair-mindedness and ingenuity in thinking up solutions and tactics in war causes him to become much loved and respected amongst his troops. It's in book 2, Academ's Fury, when he starts to gather around him friends who become his ride or dies throughout the series. I would say books 3, 4 and 6 are the strongest, as we really see Tavi come into his own. I would say that it's not in my top 10 book series of all time, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was satisfying. It is definitely worth reading. We're now coming into the spoilery section of my review, so maybe save this video to come back to later if you haven't read this series before. I've been reading other series recently in which main characters, big characters, die, and that provides a lot of the emotion and drama of the series. But that's not the case in this. Really, by the end, only minor characters die, even though you're worried all the way through that bigger characters are going to die. So I quite enjoyed it in the end that there was a happily ever after for most people, because it seems different and fresh from the kill your darlings approach that most fantasy authors seem to have these days. Though I can see why some people might think that these books don't have an edge because of that. There were a few things that weren't as developed as I felt they should be. We never get the magic system fully explained, for instance. The Furies could have been explored a lot more, especially at the end with the great Furies of the mountain. I would have liked to know the process of that a lot more, and how Octavian got them under his control, if he did, and if he kept them that way. And then smaller things like Max and Crassus, who are half brothers. So they had the same father, but Max was illegitimate, and those two were fighting in one part of the world when their father was in another part of the world, and I thought in the end there would be this big reunion and they would all be reconciled and those relationships would be mended. And there was even the drama of the father very, very nearly dying. I didn't want to have waited all series for the brothers and the father finally to come together, only for the father to die before that could happen. But in the end we didn't get the resolution to that at all. We didn't see the reunion. We just know that Crassus and his mother and father went back to their part of the world and Max stayed with Tavi. Other people may not have cared or focused on this bit too much, but Max was actually my favourite character. But other than a few little niggles like that, and the problematic characters of Aldrich and Odiana, and the very slow start in book 1, other than that, it was a very rewarding, satisfying reading experience. Again, I would categorise the books as being good and solid. Maybe not in the most amazing thing I've ever read category, but still definitely worth reading. If you enjoyed this video, please consider going to gofundme.com/SaveJenny, where I'm fundraising for my life-saving neurosurgery that's not available here in the UK. Thank you.